And we're going to have with us for the next two segments to talk a little bit about their company and kind of their work and growth here in Central Mass. Tom Stokes, who's the president and CEO, and Steve Tyler, who's the associate senior civil engineer and manager of the Worcester office for Howard Stein Hudson. And Tom, I'll let you lead off, and then we'll let use the baseball parlance here. We'll let Steve kind of follow up, but tell us what the company does, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Delighted to be here. Thanks very much for all the welcome that the City of Worcester has given us, and yourself too, Tim. Company's been around since 1987. Howard Stein Hudson, two women started the firm, Jane Howard and Kathy Stein Hudson, back in 1987, 32 years ago, and started really as a planning firm. Software planning, public involvement, things like that. And through the years, through a variety of projects, we've grown to where we are today with 3 offices and 85 people doing what we like to consider, soup to nuts, one-stop shopping, doing planning, design, and construction services, to carry both public and private projects from the start to the finish.
So you got, typically your clients you mentioned on the public and private side. So your typical, or if there is a typical, who would you work with in the private sector? Is it schools, other businesses, institutions?
Developers, schools, yes, universities, institutions, museums, things like that, but mainly developers, residential developers, doing the traffic engineering, civil engineering associated with a development project.
Right, and all of those things are required when you're dealing with the municipality or city or town or the state in terms of traffic counts, zoning, zoning, planning boards. You kind of help work them through that process. Yeah,
we try to predict what's going to happen. So when you see those traffic counters out there, they're there for a reason. People are very habitual in what they do every day, and you'd be amazed. The counts are pretty much the same every day. So when you add the development, you know how many trips are going to be associated with that development. You add it to that, and you try to make things better, so that the development doesn't ruin things the way it was, and that you help things.
And so, Steve, you're part of the team as an engineer, a senior engineer, kind of doing that. Your experience in working with kind of the clients and that day-to-day interface.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Tim, and happy to be in Worcester. My role with Howard Stein Hudson, obviously here in Central Massachusetts, is try to bring some of those same components to both of our private and municipal and public state clients and other agencies. The type of things I do are emphasized on site development, overall project management, whether it be design or construction. Certainly assist with other emphasis points such as public involvement, getting through the planning boards, and those are critical, Board of Selectmen, and all the questions that the public raise, and certainly on the larger projects, a roadway project, corridor project, where you change things, there's a lot of things that go into it other than just traffic.
Yeah, you mentioned that in that public involvement. Yeah, there's the planning board, zoning board, council votes, select board, select boards. But there's also public involved, kind of engaging with the neighbors, right, and trying to get their input, so there's no surprises when you go into those votes. So kind of managing that public process is that maybe not necessarily always engineering, but it's engagement.
Exactly, and we manage that as best as we can. I think that's probably a little less predictable than traffic patterns.
Yes.
And so, but we do try to think about what the potential trips are or hazards, and help the project, client, whatever it may be, get through that process.
And the other piece of this, both Tom and you mentioned kind of the public side. If you're a municipality, whether you're a larger city like Worcester or Boston, or a smaller town, or if you're a state agency, there's staff limitations, and oftentimes they'll contract and work with a company like yourself to help guide them or kind of be a force multiplier in moving through a project. So that public work is something that you work and bid on or have contracts with, right?
Well, absolutely. In fact, some of the programs, it's a very good point, particularly in Central Massachusetts, needing that support staff. There's a lot of grants out there, funding that's out there that we really feel like we do specialize in it. And we got the expert here, Steve Tyler. who served as the director of public works in the town of Spencer for many years. And if you drive through Spencer, you'd see how awesome things are along there. And to get the word out, we've done a lot of meet and greets with a lot of the towns. Obviously, with the city, we're talking quite a bit with, but towns like Paxton, Templeton, places like that, where you do offer the support, and they're like, really, all that's available, and it certainly is, So we try to do that.
And one of the things that we engaged in with the chamber-led, working with our town leaders and our partner affiliate chambers, is a comprehensive economic development strategy that the federal government requires that helps enhance the feasibility of the region receiving federal grants. And one of the things through that process is sometimes there are municipal leaders, town leaders who were hesitant to go for a grant because they worried about their ability to staff it. And you can kind of be that, where they don't have to worry about adding to kind of payroll costs or pensions and those types of things for a temporary project. You can kind of come in and help them go for the money, but without kind of, disrupting a town budget.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe you could mention about the Complete Streets program.
That's definitely a big component of what we've been trying to do, Tim, is bring that expertise of finding the dollars, identifying the projects, finding the dollars that are applicable to them, and helping the cities and towns get those dollars to implement those projects. And it's a combination of what you said, taking a little bit of the burden off the staffing, but also helping them leverage their dollars, whether it be their local funding or Chapter 90 funding, and use $1 to get $2 or $3.
Right, and the local dollars would be, that allocation that a city or town says to repairing roads or infrastructure improvements. The state, through Chapter 90, gives an allocation, usually about $200 million a year. 300 million has gone back and forth a little bit to help cities and towns with kind of road work, infrastructure work, and you can kind of help them make the best use of that.
Exactly.
Good. And we're going to come back in just a minute. We're going to talk about a couple of the specific projects you're doing, and we're going to talk a little bit about the opening in Worcester, the grand opening not too long ago. So we'll touch base on that when we come back. Welcome back to Chamber Exchange, a TV show. I want to welcome back our guest from the previous segment, Tom Stokes, who's the president and CEO, and Steve Tyler, who's the associate senior civil engineer and manager of the Worcester office for Howard, Stein, Hudson. And we had a great ribbon cutting and office opening in April. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. But I just want to kind of complete the conversation about really kind of the beginning to end kind of services that Howard, Stein, Hudson provides. So, Steve, there's a couple towns you're working with on the Complete Streets program, and maybe you could just walk us through what you're doing, interfacing with the town, kind of from beginning to end.
Sure, absolutely. So the Complete Streets program, in a nutshell, is a program from the state that helps municipalities improve their streets, whether it be walkability, multimodal transit, bicycles, so forth, crossings, safe crossings. So what we do under that program is we would work with a local city or town, and the first step is to pass a policy, where the town would adopt a policy to implement Complete Streets. It's not constraining, it's a policy that works for the municipality, whatever their needs might be. And then from there you come up with a prioritization plan where you identify what the long-term needs of the community are. And with that prioritization plan, it goes to Mass DOT, and so now you have a series of projects that are eligible for funding. And so then the next step would be work with the municipality to identify those projects one by one or a few at a time, secure that funding, put out a package for bid under the state procurement laws, and then we would help them oversee construction and get the final vision that they were looking for.
Right, so again, that expertise to leverage state money on top of some additional allocations to kind of create those livable, walkable areas in our communities, and doing a lot of it here in Central Mass.
We are, and it's really enjoyable to do. You can go into a community, you can see them realize something that they wanted for a while, but they were been spending their money elsewhere because of the infrastructure conditions that they have, and it's rewarding work.
So we talked about some of the towns, but there's a project that's gotten a lot of attention here in Central Massachusetts, and that has to do with professional baseball coming to Worcester and Polo Park, and the announcement, and the city working with the ownership of the team, the AAA Red Sox affiliate. We'll be playing baseball in April of 2021, but a lot of things need to happen City has hired a construction manager at risk, Skanska, worldwide kind of construction development company. And maybe, Tom, you could, and Steve, you can talk a little bit about how you're working with Skanska and the city in that regard.
Yeah, no, we're delighted to join the team. It's truly a very exciting project and right at the heart of the city, you know, so it's part of the overall economic development. It's a fantastic part of it. But we're bringing our public involvement experience to the team in terms of making abutters, stakeholders aware of what's coming up in terms of construction, development and things like that, and really just getting the word out. Right. So we're operating out of our Main Street office here in Worcester, and maybe Steve, you can follow through. Taylor is handling it with Jeff Dietrich in our office. And
yeah, certainly. So, you know, working through that group, through the city and Skanska, we're helping that group with the public outreach, involved with traffic issues, construction issues, just trying to keep the people informed of what's going on, you know, how to avoid those concerns, and also be a place where people can come to and say what their concerns are, and we would bring that information back to try to resolve maybe some issues that also need to be addressed.
So those, you know, there's the weekly notifications about, you know, what work is going to be happening on what streets. You're working on engaging with the businesses, letting the public know where parking is available so that they can utilize and support the businesses through this process. So that's kind of a day-to-day kind of working, and you've got somebody on it kind of full-time.
Exactly. Yeah, she's doing a great job, and we love doing the work. We love being here in the city and helping something like that grow.
Yeah, and you know, it's not unlike kind of what we're dealing with on Main Street and some other Pleasant Street and some other parts of the city at the moment with resurfacing and new sidewalks, which are, you know, much more pedestrian friendly, bikeable, intermodal, but it's a pain in the neck when it's happening, and it's disruptive. True. So anything you can do to help the businesses through that process and engage the public, you know, it kind of smooths it out a little bit, hopefully.
Certainly,
right?
It's all being thought of.
But at the end of the day, a pretty significant project that's going to be, I think, a real plus to the businesses over time. But speaking of that, you know, you made a conscious decision to grow. You know, Howard Stein Hudson came to Worcester, headquartered in Boston, right?
Yes.
And we had in April a ribbon cutting with your new Main Street office, where one of the owners and founders of the company joined us.
Jane Howard, right?
With the Lieutenant Governor, the mayor, the city manager, but maybe talk about why you opened up in Worcester and how it's gone so far.
Yeah, no, so we had been in Boston for 25 odd years, and we opened an office in Chelmsford. As we tried to grow and do more projects, we were doing a lot with Mass DOT here. We had done some work with the city. We did Tatnook Square here in the city. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, we did Highland Street. So there was.
You pronounce that like a native. A lot of people have trouble with that from the area. So.
No, we're particularly proud of that project. I think it came out great in Highland Street too. So there has been projects in the area. We did stuff for Worcester State University, and there's opportunity here. And then we were trying to hire, and Steve came across our path, and we decided it is Central Mass. It made perfect sense, and just to really have employment here. We have people who live in the area, just to open it up, and it's just been fantastic. The Main Street office, as you mentioned, a brand new roadway right outside the door. We love that as a welcome, you know. So we know that's going to be finished, but that's the kind of thing we do, and it's just been very helpful.
And Steve, how's it going? How many employees? What's the vision of the plan in terms as you grow?
Well, it's going great so far. As you know, we opened the office with me sitting in the corner. We fitted out. We've already added 2 full-time employees in the office. We have a couple of people that are satellite to our office from either our Boston or Chelmsford. So on a daily basis, we typically have 3 or 4 or more people there. And we're already talking about what our next step is and what the next person that we're going to bring in to support the projects we have ongoing.
What do we room for about 12?
It's a good office, and that was when we met the plan for growth. And you know, Howard Stein Hudson's decision is we've seen probably roughly a dozen plus companies in the last year or two. Some engineering services, some technical IT companies, a couple architectural firms open up offices in Worcester for a couple of reasons. Number one, talent acquisition with the colleges and universities. In your particular instance, WPI is pretty well known for engineering, design, students, and but also people not wanting to commute into Boston and Cambridge anymore, who may live in the Metro West area and find a commute into Worcester much more convenient. So it is interesting to see that grow, and we're proud to say on several of those companies we've helped recruit and make the pitch at the chamber, but I think it's a good sign.
Yeah, particularly as people stay with their career, and staff retention is really important for us. So when people grow and have families, and just allowing that as another opportunity. And today it's easy with video. video conferencing and just CAD and wherever you do it from, it's pretty good. Also, to be closer to clients is a huge thing for us.
Right. And given your experience, Steve, in Spencer and knowing the region, a lot of times people in the Boston area think of Central Mass as Western Mass, but a lot of opportunity here as we see growth and development.
I see a lot of that, and having been in the area for almost 10 years now, it's just been phenomenal, the growth. 10 years and previous to the 10 years, and the last 5 years has just been exceptional. So for those reasons, we're glad to be here, but I think it's a good fit for employees too. The commute into Boston is rough.
Yeah.
Trying to take the commuter rail into Boston is rough.
It's getting better, but we got more work to do.
And we hope that we help with that too. But, it's just the quality of life here in Central Mass is excellent. The projects that we're doing are the same. We're doing projects all over the Commonwealth, and so we'll continue to grow that.
Good. Well, it was, as a former elected official in 6 years at the Chamber, I've had the privilege to go to a lot of ribbon cuttings, and yours was a great one. It was a fun event. It was a party like festive. But Tom and I got talking because Tom is from Ireland, and we got talking about Irish football, Gaelic football as it's called, and having roots from Kerry. I've grown up watching Kerry football. You're rooting for the Dubs.
Yeah, that's correct.
And we're going to have a wager. We're going to bet a pint up at O'Connor's restaurant on who wins Dublin Kerry.
Okay, we got it. Okay, thanks very much, Tim.
Well, thanks for being with us.